Yeah. I'm Carl. I'm supposed to enter as a novice.
We expected you sooner. Weren't you supposed to come here with your guardian? It's been so hectic lately, people will keep turning up out of the blue.
He gave me the papers and left me at the gate. You must be used to that, though. I'm not the first novice here, am I?
But that wasn't very considerate of him, was it? It's been so hectic here lately, novices arriving one after the other. The last one didn't even have a letter, and you'd think his backside was on fire, the way he kept looking over his shoulder.
You took him without the letter? You didn't find that suspicious?
My guess is he wanted to hide from someone, but he's a priest and knows how things work in the monastery, so there was nothing to prevent him from being accepted, at least temporarily. You're a different case, though. Are you able to read?
Naturally. I wouldn't be here otherwise.
So then, are you ready to enter the Order of Saint Benedict and renounce forever the temptations of this world?
I am.
Then you must rid yourself of all your worldly possessions. Sell them or give them to the poor and needy or donate them to the monastery. You may not enter this place burdened by worldly goods. Inside the gatehouse is a trunk in which you will find monk's robes. Put away all your possessions and dress yourself in the habit. Then you may rest a while I go and see the prior to arrange matters for your acceptance. Good luck to you.
Strange feeling being without all of that. I didn't realise how much I'd grown used to it.
Everything's prepared. It's time for you to take your vows.
Do I really have to wear this?
You'd better get used to it. You'll be wearing it for the rest of your life.
Brothers in Christ, we have gathered here today to welcome a new novice into our midst. Dear brother, forget your former life and embrace your new vocation in the community of the monks of St. Benedict. Opus Dei, obedientia, obprobria, the service of God, obedience, and endurance of all discomfort. These are the cornerstones and succor of our order, which on this day shall become your own. Suscipe me, Domine, secundum eloquium tuum, et vivam. Et non confundas me ab expectatione mea.
Sing. Suscipe me, Domine, secundum
Eloquium tum et vivam.
in loquium tuum vivam, et non confundas me ab expectatione me
Accept your new name, Brother Gregor, and wear it with honor. Welcome, brother.
Welcome, brother. I am Antonius, a novice like you. I've been instructed to guide you around the monastery and tell you what you can expect and what your duties will be.
Thanks for helping me out during the ceremony. I had no idea what I was supposed to do.
You don't know Latin, do you? Don't worry. Work in the scriptorium will teach you fast enough. Why exactly are you here? Was it your choice? Or did someone force you to come?
It was my choice. For a common lad like me, it's the easiest way to get an education and do something worthwhile with my life.
It looks like we're both here for the same reason. I think we'll get along.
Would you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a novice and I'm here because I'd make a poor merchant. I like books and I want an education. Although I must say, so far the monastic life's been quite unexpected.
Let's go then.
Good. But before we do, here's a letter directly from the prior telling you all your regular duties from tomorrow onwards. Make sure to read it this evening so you know how things work. Right, we can go now. Follow me closely. I'll explain everything as we go. Remember one word: discipline. It's your job to work and pray. You serve the Lord now, not your own bodily needs.
God be with you.
Peter has a strong constitution. He'll still be on this earth for many years to come.
This is the way to the dormitory, where we all sleep. You'll find a free bed there, which is now yours. Do you know the first thing the monastery taught me? To appreciate sleep. We rise before dawn every day. Takes a bit of getting used to.
Be well.
God be with you.
This is the garden, a place for silent contemplation and meditation. Centuries ago,
Peace be with
this
you,
monastery was founded by the most esteemed of brothers, Saint Procopius. His earthly remains can be found in a cave under the monastery, and his spirit wanders the corridors at night, punishing any misbehaving novices. So beware. Here are the frattery and scriptorium, together with the library. These are the places where we work. Ora et labora. Pray and work. As a novice, you must always listen to your superior brethren, and above us monks are the prior and the circators, who punish every infraction. You'll know them by the canes they carry. Do what they say. This is the refectory, where we come together to eat. During meals, you must be silent. Only one brother reads aloud from the Rule of Saint Benedict.
The rule is the only law we recognize, with the exception of those from God himself. If you break any of its precepts, expect a swift punishment. But I've already told you about the circuitous. The library. the pride of our monastery, a trove of learning. We don't just read books here, we also copy them. You too will learn how. And that's all. Today you are still free from duty, but tomorrow you begin work like the others. If you need anything, ask any of the brothers. We will be glad to help you. And I recommend you get to know the other novices. You already know me. Then there is Siskin, Yodok, and Lucas.
Thanks for showing me around. There's a lot to learn here. Will you tell me something about yourself?
There's not much to tell. I lived in Vlashim, and after my father died, I found out I wasn't much of a merchant. So I left the shop to my brother, and decided to become a monk. It's peaceful here. There's food and lots of time to read.
So you chose to come here?
It may seem strange, but I'm one of the few novices that did. I might be the only one. The truth is, the idea of spending my life in a monastery was more appealing than being cooped up in a greasy old shop.
I'd like to ask you something about the monastery. Who's in charge of things around here?
Truthfully, everyone except us. But officially, Abbot Peter. And soon enough, someone else. As if it mattered. Our life will still be work and prayer.
I see. Are there any rifts between the brothers?
Yes. From the moment talk began about electing a new abbot, it's been like a hornet's nest here. Strange you haven't noticed.
Tell me something about electing the abbot.
Abbot Peter is old. When he dies, they'll have to select a new abbot from amongst the brethren. The candidates are John and Nevlas. And if you ask me for my opinion, Nevlas is definitely the right man. Unfortunately, no one cares about my opinion because novices get no say.
Tell me something about life here.
Work, prayer, as if you didn't know. We serve God, and that's the central truth of our lives.
What are the roles of the various monks here?
Someone takes care of the library, someone else the garden. The abbot supervises everyone, and in his absence, the prior. But it's the circators you should worry about. They're the brothers who'll make sure we observe the rule. They can be quite strict, so if you want to avoid getting punished, always act righteously and do your duties honestly.
Who's in charge of things around here?
Truthfully,
Are there already candidates to be the new abbot?
brothers John and Nevlas, but the others have been fighting like dogs because of them. We don't have to fight about anything, though.
This John, who is he?
A circator, and really just an unpleasant old man. It's mostly the older brothers on his side, because they believe he'll protect the status quo and all the benefits that come with long service here.
Tell me something about Nevlas.
Nevlas manages the monastery's property. He's what they call the provost. He'd like to bring back solemnity to the monastery through reform and by returning to pure faith. A lovely idea, but most of the monks are against it.
Why can't novices vote?
They say we don't have enough experience to decide about anything. Don't worry, we'll get our chance.
Why is who wins so important?
We're young and we'll spend the rest of our lives here. And the abbot decides everything about our lives. Didn't it ever occur to you how powerful he is?
Who would you choose as the new abbot if you could?
Why should I even think about that when I don't have the right to vote? Gregor, don't go poking your nose into other people's business. You'll sleep better at night. What is it, brother?
Gloria in excelsis Deo, et in terra pax hominum.
No. Peter has a strong constitution. He'll still be on this earth for many years to come.
I wish all good health upon him. But I want change. And only a new habit can bring that.
Waiting pays off. There's no hurry.
Salve, Domine.
I'll have to get something to eat. I'm starting to get hungry.
Can't you see we're at Mass?
Commandments in words to the intelligent among his disciples, but demonstrating the divine precepts by his actions for those of harder hearts and ruder minds. The abbot should always remember what he is and what he is called, and should know that to whom more is committed, from him more is required. Let him make no distinction of persons in the monastery. Let him not love one more than another, unless it be one whom he finds better in good works or in obedience. And let him not shut his eyes to the faults of offenders, but, since he has the authority, let him cut out those faults by the roots as soon as they begin to appear. Remembering the fate of Heli, the priest of Siloam, the well-disposed and those of good understanding, let him correct with verbal admonitions the first and second time. But bold, hard, proud, and disobedient characters he should curb at the very beginning of their ill-doing by stripes and other bodily punishments, knowing that it is written, "The fool is not corrected with words." And again, beat your son with the rod, and you will deliver his soul.
Talk to me, brother.
The rule of Saint Benedict, readings on humility. The first degree of humility is
I'd like to ask you something about the monastery.
This is the virtue of those who hold
Who's in charge of things around here?
Abbot Peter is the administrator of the monastery, but you won't see him. He's always traveling, and on top of that, he's old and infirm. Perhaps the good Lord will bless him with many more years of life.
And what happens when the old abbot dies?
Then we elect a new one.
Are there any candidates to be the new abbot?
Yes, there are. Brothers John and Nevlas. Cursed elections. Since the brothers began talking about them, there's only been strife in the monastery. On one side are brothers who'd like to see John as abbot, on the other those who support Nevlas, and they seem to be capable of fighting about it forever.
Tell me about John.
John is a circator, and the oldest brother here. It would be only natural if he took the crosier from Peter. He has experience, merit, and composure. He'd lead the monastery wisely.
Let us do what the prophet says.
I'd like to know about Nevlas.
Nevlas manages the monastery's property. He doesn't have the most experience, but his drive and heart are pure, his faith firm, and his ideas rational. Although perhaps he's too keen to change our routines here, which many brothers don't like.
Therefore, since the spirit of silence so important,
Why does it matter so much who wins?
Because the future direction of the monastery hangs in the balance. The younger brothers feel they have to work more than their superior brothers, and that some brothers are more concerned with their own comfort than with worshipping God. The older brothers take a different view. They say the younger monks want privileges they haven't earned, and each side has its own candidate.
I thought politics weren't part of the monastic way of life.
You're right. But we know nothing besides the monastery, and the abbot's decisions can influence our entire life. Some of the brothers take it very personally.
Who's in charge?
Abbot?
And what happens when...
Then...
The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on the spirit.
Are there ever any disagreements between the brothers?
Unfortunately, yes. The biggest quarrels right now are about the election of the new abbot. They can already see poor Peter in his grave.
Tell me something about electing the abbot.
The old abbot is practically on his deathbed. There are two candidates. Half the monastery wants John, the other half, Nevlas. And there's no chance they'll come to an agreement. But you've probably already noticed the atmosphere around here.
Even though it be for good, holy, edifying conversation. For it is
Are there ever any...
Unfortunately,
speaking, you will not
I understand.
sin. And in another place, death and
Tell me
life
something about life here.
power of the tongue.
prayer,
For speaking
work,
and teaching
obedience.
belong to the master.
That just about sums it up.
Hearts to be silent, to listen. And for that reason, if anything, has to
Can
be
you tell me something about the rule of St. Benedict?
7 centuries ago, Saint Benedict of Nursia wrote a collection of monastic rules which we still follow today. They're read at every meal. The fundamental precepts are obedience, work, and prayer. We're fully devoted to serving God. The outside world, beyond the monastery walls, is foreign to us.
Do you never want to know what's going on out there?
And what should be going on? The sky is just as blue and the grass is just as green. Perhaps the rulers change, but the greatest ruler of them all will remain unchanged through the ages.
Here the prophet shows that if the spirit of silence ought to lead us
I'm interested in the monastery's history.
It was founded by Saint Procopius 500 years ago. After his death, heretics occupied the place for some time, but then the order was restored and brothers of the true faith returned.
Heretics, you say?
They wanted to worship God with some foreign rituals. In a language foreign to God, they were driven away and their books burned.
death and life are in the power of the tongue.
What are the roles of the various monks here?
Well, the abbot is the head, but he's not here now. Then there's the prior and the sub-prior, the librarian, the porter, and many others. As a novice, you should be particularly mindful of the circuitors. They're the ones who maintain discipline and punish bad behavior.
What can you tell me about the novices here?
What can I say? You're here to demonstrate your devotion to God and live a monastic life. After a year, you can make your vows and become a fully fledged brother.
I meant something specific about the brothers that are here.
But you know them yourself? Yodak is an odd one, but he's diligent and eager. Perhaps too eager. Siskin is good company, but a bit too worldly for a monk. Antonius is hardworking and will help with anything, but prays less than he ought. Lucas is as quiet as a mouse, and no one knows much about him. And then we have you, about who I know nothing.
And what he is called, and should know that to whom more
Can you leave the monastery?
from him more
Where
is
would you
required.
go?
Let him make
You
no
have everything you need
distinction of
here.
persons in the monastery.
Anyway, all the doors here are closed and locked tight, so no one can get in or out.
He finds better in good works or in obedience.
Who would you
And let
like to
him
be the
not
new
shut
abbot?
his eyes to the faults
The
of
old abbot
others,
isn't dead
but
yet.
since he has the
It's too early to
authority
talk about
to cut out
elections,
those
but
faults by the root
if I
as
had to
soon as
choose
they
between the
begin to
two
appear.
who are already putting themselves forward,
Remembering
John
the
would
fate
be
of
my
Cain,
choice.
the priest of silence, the well-disposed,
Who would you
those of
like?
good
I
understanding. Let him correct with verbal admonition the first and second time. But bold, hard, proud, and disobedient characters he should curb at the very beginning of their ill-doing by stripes and other bodily punishments, knowing that it is written,
What troubles you?
not corrected with words. And again, beat your son with the rod, and you will deliver.
I'd like to ask you something about the monastery.
The rule of Saint
Who would you like to be the new abbot?
readings on daily.
Brother Neverlas, there are many things wrong here, and John would leave them as they are.
Brethren should be occupied at certain times in manual labor, and again at fixed hours in sacred meeting. To that end we think.
What do you desire, Brother Gregor?
Prescribed as follows. From Easter unto the calends of October, when they come out from prime morning, let them labor at whatever is necessary until about the 4th hour. And from the 4th hour until about the 6th, let them apply themselves to reading. After the 6th
I'm Gregor,
hour, having
a novice.
table,
I saw you at the ceremony.
I know.
It was hard not to notice you.
And you are?
Lucas, also a novice. Don't get upset, but I don't want to talk to you. I'm happiest alone.
I'd like to know something about the other novices.
I don't know much, but ask away.
Tell me about Antonius.
I'd like to, but there's nothing to tell. I've never spoken to him. I've never asked about him.
The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on the abbot. Therefore, when anyone receives the name of abbot,
Listen, brother. Is there anyone in the monastery who can help me get hold of something, well, something that's not so readily available?
Oh, yes? And what sort of thing are you talking about exactly? Forget about it, brother, and focus on prayer and work.
Will you tell me something about yourself?
There's nothing I can tell you.
I mean, where you're from, what sort of life you had before, that sort of thing.
I'm a novice, and my monastic name is Lucas. Nothing else matters.
Let him not love one more than another, unless it
Come on. Is there really nothing at all you can tell me?
I could, but I don't want to. I'm sorry. I want to stay focused on work and prayer, not on who I once was. I never will be again. What has been isn't important for us. We cast the past aside when we walked through the monastery gates and took our oath. Never forget that.
The well-disposed and those of good understanding, let him correct with verbal admonition the first and second time.
If you could, who would you vote for to be the abbot?
But I can't vote, so what's the point of worry? Ask Antonius. He often talks about it, and I'm sure he has an opinion.
I'd like to ask you something about the monastery.
And again, beat your son.
Well, that's all. Thank you for your time, brother.
The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on the spirit of science.
My name's Gregor, a novice.
You can call me Siskin. Now, are you here of your own free will, or is this a punishment? Although it's not important. Welcome to purgatory.
Did you say purgatory?
You'll see soon enough. Soon enough.
Will you tell me something about yourself?
Look, nothing against you, but I prefer not to talk about my past.
Since the spirit of silence is so important.
Are you hiding something? Why are you so reluctant to tell me anything about yourself?
I'm hiding a lousy past that I'd rather forget. I hate to think of all I lost when they stuck me in here. And also because I really hate the question, aren't you the son of the famed Sir Smil Flashka of Pardubitz? I was rich and I had everything. But then my father began to feel his time approaching, so he decided to send a son to the monastery. And, being the youngest, a lot fell on me. I've no head for managing the estate, and they said I'd squander it. Can you imagine? Me, in a monastery. So I took what coin I could from home with me, so I didn't lose out completely.
But you didn't have to come here if you didn't want to.
No, not if I didn't mind being left to beg alms by the city gate. I had one choice, the monastery or nothing. If it had come to that after my father's death, so be it. But to get rid of me while he's still alive...
They must have realised you robbed them.
I donated some of the silver to the monastery when I came in, just to piss them off. I can just see my brothers, my siblings, arguing with the abbot to give it back.
And you stashed away the remainder?
Indeed so.
Let them rest on their beds in perfect silence.
What's your plan with this treasure?
To get out of here as soon as I can. I'll wait another year or two until my hot-headed brothers cool off a bit, and then I'll take the silver and run off somewhere, far, far away from here.
That's all I wanted to know.
Please, keep it to yourself, especially the part about the coin.
Idleness, and at the same time not to overburden them or drive them away with excessive toil. Their weakness must be taken into...
How is it that you don't get any penance for missing morning prayers?
I've paid off the circators to turn a blind eye, And the other monks don't notice as long as you show your face there from time to time. No one's too awake at that time of the
I may
morning.
not sin with my tongue. I have set a guard to my mouth. I was mute.
I'd be interested to hear what you think about the other novices.
Here the prophet shows that
Tell me about
the spirit of
Antonius.
silence ought to lead us.
Oh, if there was a monk I'd recommend as a friend, with of course the exception of myself, it would be Antonius.
Sin make us avoid
He has a calm soul, he's easy to talk to, and you can always rely on him.
so important. Permission to
What can you tell me about
rarely be
Lucas?
granted even to
It's a tricky situation with Lucas. No one really knows anything about him. I've tried so many times to talk to him, but he always backs away like a virgin on a wedding night.
And in another place,
That's all.
death
Thanks.
and life are in the power of the tongue. For
Who would you
speech
elect,
and
Abbot, if you could?
teaching belong to the
Most
mouth,
likely Nevlas.
the disciples'
He's a fine fellow and he seems honest.
and for that
But,
reason, if anything,
truth be
we
told,
have
it doesn't
to
matter
superior,
much to
it
me.
should be asked
A monastery will
for
still be a
all
monastery, no matter who's in charge.
inspired by
If you really want to talk more about it, ask Antonius. He seems to have taken an interest.
Laughter, these we condemn everywhere with a perpetual ban. And for such conversation we do not permit a disciple to open his mouth.
Greetings, brother. I'm Gregor, and I'm new here.
Greetings on the
Greetings to you, brother. I'm Yodok, the oldest of the novices. I hope you'll like it here in the monastery and that you won't get into trouble.
Trouble?
He should show them all that is good and
You're young, perhaps intemperate. You might easily stray from the rules of the order. I suggest you get to know the older monks. You never know when it might come in handy.
demonstrating the divine precepts by his actions for those of harder hearts and
I'm interested in the other novices.
The abbot should always remember what he is.
What can you tell me about Siskin?
And should know that to
Oh,
more
he's always got a smile on the new friend.
more is
But I reckon he don't belong in the monastery. He spends more time dreaming of the world outside than tending to his duties. I'm surprised he hasn't been thrown out already. If it was up to me, he'd be out on his ear right away.
Let him not shut his eyes to the faults of offenders, but
Sounds like you don't have much time for him.
let him cut out
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
soon as they begin
Believe me, Gregor, he's hiding something from us.
remembering the fate of Heli.
In fact,
priest of
now I
silence,
come to
the
think of it,
well-disposed and
I haven't seen him at morning prayers for a while.
correct with verbal admonition the first and second time.
What can you
But bold,
I'm surprised.
hard, proud and disobedient characters, he should
Do you know anything about Antonius?
of their ill-doing.
Only that he came to the monastery voluntarily, because he didn't want to work in his father's shop. Antonius is alright. You can rely on him. He won't betray a confidence. He's always happy to help, which is more than can be said for the other brothers.
The rule of Saint Benedict.
I'm interested in Lucas.
Readings on the abbot.
Nobody knows much about Lucas. He keeps himself to himself. If you ask me, he's got something to hide. I'd keep well clear of him if I was you.
Do you have any grounds for suspecting him of something?
Quite a lot. And also none at all. The Circators who make the rounds despise him, and they'd never punish anyone without cause.
The divine precepts by his actions for those of harder hearts and ruder minds. The abbot should always remember what he is and what
Can you
he
tell me
is,
something about yourself?
and should know that to whom
I would if there was anything noteworthy to say.
from him
But I'm just the ordinary son of a landowner, now a monk. There's nothing in my past, present, or future that anyone could find interesting.
Why did you join the monastery?
Because it was better than living in poverty. As the youngest son, I'm not entitled to inherit my father's estate, but he was kind enough to sell off some cattle and send me here. And you know what? I'm glad to be here. It's better than mucking out manure.
The priest of Siloam. The well-disposed and those of good understanding, let him correct with verbal admonition.
Who would you vote for as the new abbot if you could?
Why do you care? We don't have the right to vote, so we shouldn't get mixed up in it.
I'm just interested, that's all.
I like John better. But like I've said, it's not our place to get involved. It's enough that Antonius is mixed up in it. Don't you start too.
Again, beat your son with the rod, and you will deliver his soul from death. The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on the app. Therefore, when anyone sees
Gregor, talk to me.
I'd be interested to hear what you think about the other novices.
show them all that is good and holy.
What can you tell me about Siskin?
That there's no man alive less suitable for the monastic life than him.
You don't know young Lord Capon.
I've heard things. Siskin must have been like him, fighting, drinking, fornicating. But then he ended up in here.
Why is he in the monastery?
No one knows. Maybe he's hiding from something. Or maybe he's being punished.
Do you think he has a secret?
Don't we all? But unlike the others, he absolutely refuses to speak about his life before the monastery.
That's all I wanted to know about him. Thanks. What about Yodok?
Be on good terms with him. If you show even the slightest hint you don't like him, he'll make your life hell. He's a slimy little pedant who'll rat you out to the superiors. Once he finishes his novitiate, I imagine he'll want to climb his way up the ladder to at least Sir Cater. He's a man who enjoys ordering others around.
I'm interested in Lucas.
No one knows much about him. He doesn't talk to anyone. He works, eats, sleeps, then does it all again the next day. It's as if he wanted to get it all over with as soon as possible. By it, I mean his entire life.
That's all. Thanks.
Idleness is the enemy of the soul. Therefore, time and magical labor, and again at fixed hours in sacred reading.
Will you tell me something about yourself?
There's nothing I can tell you.
I mean, where you're from, what sort of life you had before, that sort of thing.
I'm a novice, and my monastic name is Lucas. Nothing else matters.
From the 4th hour until about the 6th, let them apply themselves to reading.
Come on.
What has been...
I'd like to know something about the other novices.
I don't know much, but ask away.
What can you tell me about Siskin?
Not a lot. I don't know him. Actually, I don't know much about him at all. Except that he's not a stickler for rules.
You really don't know anything about anyone? Well, thanks anyway.
Don't get upset. I'm sorry I can't tell you more. I just haven't felt like getting to know anyone yet.
I'd like to know...
I don't...
Do you know anything about Yodok?
I don't. He doesn't like me, and he's on very friendly terms with the circators. That's about it.
Are you joking? Don't you know anyone at all here?
Why should I?
I'd have thought you might want to know who you'll be spending the rest of your life with. I definitely do. In fact, I probably already know more about them than you do.
Don't get upset. I'm sorry I can't...
Even though it be for good, holy, edifying.
What would you like?
In much speaking, you will not escape sin.
I'd be interested to hear what you think about the other novices. I'm interested in Yodok.
What could interest you about him? He's a no-good rat. He'll turn you in for the price of a turnip. I'd bet my life that if he wasn't here, he'd be a human scamp, bowing and scraping for a few groschen.
That doesn't sound too flattering.
It wasn't meant to. No matter what you do here, watch out for him. He's got his eye on everyone, and he'll rat on you for even the slightest of infractions.
That's all. Thanks.
The rule of Saint Benedict. Readings on the abbot. Therefore, when anyone receives the name of abbot, governs his disciples with a twofold teaching. That is